Athletes, if you don't prioritize hitting the right macronutrients after your training, then you're leaving muscle gain and training adaptations and progress all on the table. So today in this video, I'm going to go through the 4 R's that you need to drill into your memory and start utilizing straight after every single one of your training sessions. Before I dive into it, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you enjoy these videos, hit the notification bell because you'll get a notification every single time I post a video, which is weekly. So enjoy. Let's get started. So why does your post-training nutrition even matter? Well, during training, you drain your stored energy within your muscle tissue. You also tear your muscle fibers, they're called micro tears, and your high intensity efforts or sweat loss leave you in a more dehydrated state. This is where the 4 R's come in handy. Refuel, repair, rehydrate, and revitalize. If you delay refueling with carbohydrates, your glycogen and glucose levels stay low, essentially impacting your energy heading into your next training session. If you don't repair your muscles with enough protein, those micro tears do not repair fast enough and you end up pulling up sore with DOMs that last days and days and days. And then if you ignore your fluids and electrolytes and don't rehydrate from the sweat that you've lost in your training session, you end up in a dehydrated state that can compound over time and affect your energy, nutrient delivery, and overall mood across the day. And then if you ignore fluids and electrolytes and do not replenish your sweat loss after training, you are at risk of being dehydrated for a longer term, reducing your nutrient delivery to your tissues, feelings of fatigue, as well as heightening your risk of cramping. Now, it's also worth mentioning that the post-training anabolic window where you need to cram a protein shake in straight after your session, otherwise all of your gains are they just disappear, is completely wrong. That myth has already been debunked. The anabolic window is not necessary, but it is still important to prioritize the right nutrients after training as soon as you can, particularly when you have double sessions in a day or a short recovery window where you need to feel good for your training session the day after. It doesn't mean that your muscles will dwindle, but it does kickstart your recovery process so you can bounce back a little bit faster. The first R is refuel. About 60 minutes after training, aim to have 15 to 40 grams of easily digestible carbohydrates. You want to prioritize things like a ripe banana, medjool dates, rice cakes, some honey, and then 1 to 2 hours after training, you can prioritize having a main meal with more complex or fibrous carbohydrates to help supply more sustained energy. So you can have something like sweet potato, brown rice, quinoa, whole grain bread, wholemeal bread, anything that is a little bit more higher in fiber will help your energy levels in the long term. The second R is repair. This is where your protein becomes a big priority. You want to prioritize having at least 0.4 grams of protein per kilo of body weight. This is not a maximum amount of protein, it's the minimum amount that you should be having. This stimulates muscle protein synthesis, which enhances your repair and rebuilding of your muscle tissue that has gone through tears and the micro tears from your training session. You want to prioritize protein in both your snack within the 60 minutes after training, as well as the meal 1 to 2 hours after training. Focus on lean proteins in your main meal and easier digestible proteins in your snack, whether it's through a protein bar, whey protein shake, or even some high protein yogurt. The third R is rehydrate. This is pretty self-explanatory. Rehydrate with fluids, but you also want to pair this with electrolytes because the sweat that you have lost in your training session is sodium heavy, salt heavy. So you want to make sure that you're having your fluid with electrolytes, that you're also replenishing any electrolytes that were lost through your sweat. Your goal is to have pale yellow urine, and you can do this by the combination of sports drinks or electrolyte drinks and even some salty snacks. So anything like putting liquid IV in your water, Dr. Hydrate, Sodi if you're a really heavy sweater, or alternatively also having something like pretzels or chocolate milk or a milk-based drink after your training, which has a little bit more sodium in it that will help with that rehydration process. Sodium is really important here because it helps with water retention. So it pulls your fluid from your blood and utilizes it to whichever tissue is dehydrated. It also helps with your neuromuscular function as well as preventing any cramping from dehydrated tissues. And last but not least, the fourth R is revitalize. This is where micronutrients become really important. So prioritize having a mixture of fruits and vegetables to increase your nutrient density and to help with reducing inflammation. Fruits and vegetables tend to be anti-inflammatory and antioxidant rich that will help support and speed up your recovery. You can prioritize anything from berries, cherries, oranges, beetroot, and green leafy vegetables. perfect. Now, some snack options that you can go to is anything from a protein shake with a banana, so you're pairing your protein and your carbohydrates together. You can even have a protein bar and an apple, or some tuna and rice cakes. You need to also make sure that you're having your fluid and electrolytes on the side so that these snacks become well-rounded with your repairing, refueling, and rehydrating. And then when you have your main meal, you want to also add in your revitalize. So make sure that you're having a lean source of protein, let's say chicken breast, with some more complex carbohydrates, some brown rice, some quinoa, or a mixture of rice and potatoes, as well as some green leafy veg to tick off all 4 R's. So I've gone through everything that you should be doing. Let me talk you through some of the common errors that I notice a lot of athletes making. Let's be honest, you can have all the tools in the toolbox, but when it comes to implementing, sometimes we tend to still make mistakes. So I want you to keep an eye out for these main errors and try and not make them yourself so that you can recover really well and bounce back fast between your sessions. The first one is walking out of training, sipping on water, and just not prioritizing your snacks because you're not hungry. It's likely that you're not going to feel hungry straight after training because your adrenaline's still high, your blood flow is still directed away from your stomach, and your hunger hormones haven't turned on yet. You need to allow your body to rest, reduce and regulate your nervous system so that rest and digest system is turned on and your blood flow is directed towards your gut so you start to feel hungry. So in this instance, I'm telling you to ignore the signs that you're not feeling hungry. Prioritize having that small snack, even though you feel like you don't need to. If this is really a big struggle for you where your appetite really dictates that you cannot have a snack and you just will feel sick, I do suggest implementing some breath work, meditation, or a good cool down routine after training to help regulate your nervous system as soon as possible so you can get in those snacks and start to feel hungry again. The second mistake is slamming down a protein shake or some whey protein in water and not prioritizing the carbohydrates. Your recovery process is not just protein dependent or protein heavy. It's also reliant on glycogen and glucose, which comes from your carbohydrate ingestion. So make sure that you're pairing your protein shake with a banana or with a muesli bar, whatever is most convenient that you can take to training with you. The third mistake is rehydrating after a really high intensity session. You sweated a lot, but you're only using water and you do not put electrolytes or have salty foods with your water to help replenish your electrolytes. Your sweat, like I mentioned before, is sodium heavy. You are losing salt in your sweat. So if you're not replenishing this, you're at risk of muscle cramps coming up and also having that imbalance with fluid and electrolytes and still staying dehydrated because the sodium is what helps pull your fluid into your muscles and your bloodstream. So make sure that you're prioritizing electrolytes during and after training so that you always stay well hydrated. And then the fourth error I see athletes making is prioritizing high-fat foods or not having the right composition of snacks after training. So this is when an athlete is having a nut bar or something that's very high in fiber straight after training where your gut hasn't quite turned on and is not digesting food efficiently yet. So you need to prioritize having a little bit of protein and an easily digestible carbohydrate snack. So leave the higher fat foods and snacks for 1 to 2 hours after training so it doesn't slow your digestion down and reduce the speed that your glucose and protein are absorbed. So I think I've covered pretty much everything that you need to start doing to nail your post-training nutrition. The first tip that I went through was refueling with carbohydrates, having 15 to 40 grams of carbs straight after training. The second one was making sure that you pair with protein with at least 0.4 grams of protein per kilo of body weight. The third one was rehydrating with fluids and electrolytes. And the fourth one was revitalize with more micronutrients through fruits and vegetables to help increase your anti-inflammatory and antioxidant foods to speed your recovery up. So if you have any questions about the 4 R's, drop them below in the comments. I'll be sure to answer you, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. See ya.